Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian and I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here in Western Canada. I hope everybody is having a great week. Welcome Javon, Michael, Ariadna. Students, this is a reading class that we're doing today, and we're going to focus on a passage with the title Touchscreens. This lesson, these materials, everybody, is brought to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS. Visit us there. For the general IELTS, check us out at gieltshelp.com. These are our websites. They have all our reading materials as well as all our practice exams, interactive courses, lots more. This is what the general IELTS website looks like here with a green background. Click the big red button right there for joining our premium version of the course. It is a one-time payment. You get lifetime access. We're an IDP affiliate, a British Council partner, an IELTS test registration, and we have helped thousands of students improve their English and pass IELTS exams. For the academic, it's a blue background here. It's aehelp.com. I have pinned these websites, the URLs, to the chat. Students, I am looking at the chat here, so if you have questions, by all means, just ask me. Again, click that red button, and you can use the code TOGETHER9 for a 10% discount on these websites from this class. Make good use of it. Combine the websites with the live classes, and that's a great way to study at home or on the go and make improvements. All right, students, if you like mobile apps, download the apps from your Play Store. It's Academic IELTS Help and General IELTS Help. Search for those apps depending on which version of the exam you need and link it to the web app. Instagram is IELTS_AEHelp or GIELTS Help. And if you have questions, send me an email. Adrian@aehelp.com. That's my name, Adrian, or admin@aehelp.com. Okay, everybody, as you're noticing, probably this class might start a little bit earlier for some of you. We have just switched to Pacific Daylight Time here on the West Coast. It's actually the last time that British Columbia here in Canada is changing their clocks. So these classes will now continue from 1330 UTC to 1430 UTC. Same with our premium classes. They will start at the same time at 1330 UTC. Students, if you want to practice a bit of speaking, here's a great video for you to check out on the website. Click the like button, subscribe so you see all the videos that are coming out. We're working on a few of them right now. Let's get into reading. So today's passage looks like this. It is Touchscreens, 20th century invention, 21st century commonplace. Of course, all of you are very familiar because all our mobile phones, tablets, lots of computers, ATM machines, self-checkouts at the grocery store, they're all using this touch screen technology. When you're in the IELTS, students, and you see a reading passage and you read the title, you want to take a moment and think about it, right? You want to gather all your thoughts. You want to kind of preload the information because that will help you to understand what you're reading. That will help you to answer the questions effectively. Don't skip the title. Don't rush through the title. Take a moment. Think about touchscreens. You know, how does it work, right? There's a piece of glass. You touch a point on the glass. It reacts to your finger. It doesn't react to just anything, right? Some of you, I'm sure you know, if you're wearing gloves, for example, and you touch the screen, or if it's just in your pocket, nothing happens. Why is that, right? What happens there? What's special about our fingers? Why does it react to our fingers or some other objects, right? So think about that. Stop for a moment. Think about what you're going to read. Okay, students, then take a look at the questions. You want to practice this at home before your IELTS, and you need to do this on your IELTS. So read the title, think about it, then look at the questions. First, identify if the question includes information that's in the passage. So if you're looking at a true, false, not given, or if you're looking at multiple choice, a lot of information there's not in the passage, don't read that. Only read the questions that are in the passage. So students, this is a reading class. Make sure to read with me. Welcome. First, Love Yourself 16. Good. Tanvir, nice to see you. Ariadna, good to see so many students. All right. So let's take a look at these questions here. Read with me. Complete the notes below. Choose no more than 2 words from the passage for each answer. Now, students, you don't need to rush. If you feel like I'm speaking a little bit quickly, it's normal, natural speed. Full transparency, I am having a coffee this morning, which is unusual for me. I usually drink a tea, so I might be a little bit faster than usual, but this is about the speed that you want to build build to for your IELTS exam, okay? You have 20 minutes for each passage on average, 60 minutes for the 3 passages in the academic. In the general IELTS, the section 3 is kind of the same, so it's the same length as the academic, so about 20 minutes. You want to read the title, the questions, the passage in about the first 8 to 10 minutes, okay? So you don't have to be super fast, but you have to be nice and steady, okay? Write your answers in boxes 27 to 32 on your answer sheet. Title of summary topic. Now, all of this is somewhere in the passage, so we want to look at this, right? Again, read with me, students. Capacitive touchscreens. Johnson's touchscreens used something as an insulator and a transparent conductor coating. The something worked as the conductor, and because the dose of electricity was small, it did not affect the person's health. Resistive touchscreens. This technology was developed by accident. Instead of making calculations by hand, they used a special kind of something which conducted electricity. When the researchers applied for a patent for the technology, they were denied. Patent officers did not believe the technology had any something applications outside of the laboratory. Hearst was no longer bothered by worries about something, so he toiled in his off hours with friends to refine his invention. No hands required. Hearst developed his technology to the point that while one could still use a finger to manipulate the touchscreen, a person could also use a device akin to a pen with no ink. Okay, so these are the first few questions. Now, don't try to understand all the words. Like, you might see some new words like toiled. Toiled means to work in a playful kind of effortful way. So you're putting in lots of effort, you're working away. But if you don't know that word, it's not a big deal. So don't worry about words that you don't understand when you're reviewing questions before reading the passage. Focus on what you do know. First of all, you see that there's capacitive touchscreens and there's resistive touchscreens. So this question should kind of suggest or hint that you have 2 types of touchscreens that you need to look at here. And then there are a couple names as well. You see that the first one, they mention the name Johnson, and the second one they mention the name Hearst. So there's kind of 2 people here, each one responsible for some type of touch screen. So you should be thinking about that, okay? All right. Then we have these true, false, not given questions. True, false, not given questions, don't worry about them before you read the passage. And then we have some multiple choice. Again, multiple choice, just look at the question, but don't worry about the answers because we don't know which answer is correct and there's lots of false answers. We don't need to look at those before we look at the passage. Okay? So just look at the question. Which two of the following statements are made in the text about G.H. Hearst? Okay, so again, clearly the name here starts to become even more important. This G.H. Hearst, he's clearly an important character in the development of touchscreens. So I'm going to really kind of focus my mind on this Hearst character. And then the next question is, which two of the following statements are made in the text about E.A. Johnson? Okay, so clearly these inventors are kind of important here. Okay. So in my mind, I have these two people, Hearst, Johnson, and I have the touchscreens that they're responsible for. So Johnson, capacitive, Hearst, resistive. Okay, if you can get this much information before you start reading the passage, it's going to really help you to figure that out a little bit better when you come back to these questions. Okay. For those of you doing the academic IELTS, there's a very good chance you will have this kind of structure of information where you have to categorize. If you're at home, what you can do when you're practicing for this type of reading passage where you're categorizing is you can kind of write it down. Like you can go, okay, Johnson, capacitive, and then Hearst, resistive, and then you can make kind of a list of what these are, what are the similarities, what are the differences. Okay, IELTS has a lot of focus on this similarities, differences in the reading, but also in the other sections of the IELTS. So you want to really kind of practice that way of thinking where you're categorizing and grouping. Okay. I'm sure some of you who sat the IELTS already know this. You're like, oh yeah, no, I know exactly what you mean. Okay, so once you've done this, you go back and you start to read the passage. Okay, so here we go. Students, read with me. We're going to read this together. And again, I'm looking at the chat here, so I want you to be active. I want you to give me questions, give me information. It can be about vocabulary, about the reading passage, or just about English, okay? All right. Here we go, students. Again, reread the title. Just get yourself focused. Touchscreens, 20th century invention, 21st century commonplace. The touchscreen is everywhere in modern society. While the most commonplace touchscreens are encountered is mobile phones, touchscreens are also found in ATMs, grocery stores, computers and tablets, parking meters, cars, restaurants, medical equipment, and countless other applications. They are a part of everyday life that most people take for granted, but how did they come to be? How do they work? Okay, students, if somebody asked me, Adrian, what's the most important paragraph to pay attention to in the IELTS reading? Hint, hint, same in task 2 writing. I would say it's this one. It's the introduction. The introduction is key. It gives you the overall idea, the structure of the reading passage, and basically tells you what you're going to read, right? Here, this last sentence is a key sentence. It's called, what is it called, everybody? It's called the thesis. And a thesis, in most cases, will not have questions, but in this case, it does. In this case, the thesis says, how did they come to be? How do they work? So from this sentence, as a reader, I know that this passage will focus on A, the history of inventing touchscreens. Okay, so they're past. And then B, their function, so how they work. Okay, what is it that makes a touchscreen work, right? Okay, so that's what these two questions tell me. So really pay attention to that, right? Okay. And in the introduction, the author is always trying to get you engaged with the information. They're trying to get you focused. And so they're hinting for you to visualize. So here, you know, they say we see touchscreens usually on the mobile phones, but we also see them in ATMs. ATMs are bank machines. It's an acronym for automatic teller machine. You see them in grocery stores, computers, restaurants, medical equipment. So you want to imagine that. Like if you're a nurse, a radiologist, you're working in a hospital and you use touchscreens, you want to see that, right? So you want to picture, you're like, okay, touchscreens. So I got my mobile phone, but there's lots of other places. Many of us have cars that have touchscreens, right? Okay, so really pay attention to the introduction. Don't rush. You have some videos and information online that's really silly. They just say, oh, skim through the passage and just read the first sentence and you'll do a great job. No, you won't. You'll have a really hard time. You're going to miss a lot of valuable information and you'll probably be really confused and really tired by the time you finish. So read the passage nice and careful, everybody. Okay, here we go. Let's read together. I'm going to just read one more time, and this time what I'll do is I'll read the whole passage with you just in one go, and then we'll start looking at the questions, okay? So here we go, students. One time only from the top. Touchscreens, 20th century invention, 21st century commonplace. The touchscreen is everywhere in modern society. While the most commonplace touchscreens are encountered is mobile phones, touchscreens are also found in ATMs, grocery stores, computers and tablets, parking meters, cars, restaurants, medical equipment, and countless other applications. They are a part of everyday life that most people take for granted. But how did they come to be? How do they work? The first touchscreen was developed in the mid-1960s by British scientist E.A. Johnson while working for the Royal Radar Establishment in Malvern, UK. Johnson's invention utilized what came to be known as capacitive touch technology. It worked by using an insulator, usually glass, that had a transparent conductor coating such as indium tin oxide. The finger acted as a conductor for electricity, a very small amount that was not damaging to a person's health that activated the desired input. This device had limitations. First, it could not handle multiple touches at the same time. That is, the device could only register one touch at a time. Second, it could not register sensitivity. It was like a light switch that registered either on or off, and nothing in between. Touchscreens that could handle variations of pressure would not come until decades later. Though Johnson's touchscreens were lacking certain aspects of modern touchscreens, they still found important uses in latter decades of the 20th century. His touchscreen technology was implemented by air traffic controllers in the United Kingdom and was still in use until the late 1990s. Though Johnson's touchscreen was used throughout the latter part of the 20th century, it was quickly overshadowed in popularity by a different type of touchscreen technology, resistive. This technology was developed by accident in the early 1970s by G.H. Hurst while working at the University of Kentucky. While working through the night on a particle accelerator, Hurst and his team wanted a faster way to complete their computations. They came upon the solution of using electrically conductive paper to read coordinates instead of calculating them by hand. A side effect of his work was that the electrically conductive paper also worked as a touchscreen. The University of Kentucky applied for a patent, but was rejected. The discovery did not seem to the patent officers to have any relevant application beyond the laboratory. Freed from intellectual property concerns, Hurst later worked during his off hours with a team of inventors, scientists, and engineers who also happened to be friends on refining his chance invention. Hurst knew that the technology was promising. How it worked was quite simple. The previously mentioned electrically conductive paper was used to cover a sheet containing the X and Y axes, which were connected to a power source. When pressure was put on the conductive cover sheet, voltage was allowed to pass between the X and Y wires, which then instantaneously measured to indicate the position of the pressure. One advantage of the resistive technology over the capacitive technology was that it did not require the toucher to be specifically a finger. While it could certainly still be a finger, it could also be a stylus, a kind of pencil-type device to operate the touchscreen. In the 1990s, this led to a generation of so-called personal digital assistants, which used a stylus to operate a resistive touchscreen. Today, resistive touchscreens are still common around the world. Because they are cheaper and more durable, these devices can be found today in hospitals, factories, restaurants, and other retail environments. The next technological development, which was critical for the device you have in your pocket, is the ability for a touchscreen to be contacted in more than one position, i.e., with two fingers at once. This functionality is fundamental to the operation of modern smartphones. Multiple finger gestures are made to zoom in and out of web pages, photos, or maps, among many other useful functions. Interestingly, this technology is built upon the foundation laid by E.A. Johnson in the 1960s and 70s. The capacitive aspect of the touchscreen, while certainly more complex than previous iterations, is fundamentally the same as that from half a century ago. Modern modifications have allowed for multiple touch points as well as pressure gradations, but the technology is remarkably similar to its origins. One negative aspect of capacitive touch technology is that a user cannot use a stylus or other object, since these objects do not conduct electricity like a finger. But this has changed in recent years. For example, in 2015, Apple unveiled the Apple Pencil, which used highly responsive sensors built into the tip of the pencil to detect force, position, and pencil tilt to provide a multitude of effects. What is the future of touchscreens? 50 years since their advent, the possibilities seem endless. One fact seems doubtless, however. Touchscreens are a huge part of our lives, and all evidence points to this staying the case for the foreseeable future. All right, students, that's it about touchscreens. So even before we get to the questions, here we go. Capacitive. Who invented capacitive touchscreens? Who's the inventor? Capacitive. Who invented it? Okay. Resistive. Who invented that? Okay. When you're practicing at home, students, this is how you need to think about it, okay? You need to be able to answer these questions kind of on your own. Ariadna says it was Johnson. Golzota says it was Johnson too. Very good. Ariadna says resistive was Hearst. Very good. Okay. Tell me one difference, right? One difference in the chat about resistive versus capacitive. So what's a difference that you understood? They mentioned, like, I don't know, maybe at least 4 or 5 clear differences between resistive and capacitive. And this is a game that you can play with your classmates if you're learning reading together or with a friend, right? So what are the differences? Give me a nice list of differences. So think about, like, which one was invented first? Which one was invented in the US? Which one was invented in the UK? Okay, that's just 2. I gave you kind of 2 that you can think of for differences, but there's also some other very clear differences. I've got at least another 3, 4 in my head. Right, so think about the capacitive touchscreen here. Where did he invent it? And students, if you're like, oh, I don't remember. Well, if you don't remember, but you're like, well, I understood that, Adrian. I did understand who did it, where they did it, but I just don't remember. What that tells me is that you're probably not active enough in your reading, okay? So keep this in mind, students. If you're like, I know this, I remember reading it, remember, it was in the passage, I just can't recall it. That means you have to work on your active reading. Okay, so that means that you have to be better at, imagining Johnson back in the day, working in this country, right? So where was Johnson? Johnson was in the UK, right? Where was Hearst? Hearst was in the US. Where was Hearst working? Where was Johnson working? So, they had different jobs as well, right? So where exactly was that capacitive touchscreen, and what was it first used for? What did what did Johnson invent it for? What did Hearst invent it for? Okay, so lots of differences there. Students, let me show you the first few questions. I'm going to give you a few minutes to answer these questions. Okay, I'm going to give you about, I don't know, about 3 minutes to answer some of these questions. Title of summary topic. So look at these first few questions. I'm going to give you a couple minutes head start, and then I'll come back and check your answers in just 2 minutes. I'm still here, students, and I am listening and watching, but I want to give you a couple minutes to answer this on your own first, okay? So keep plugging away. And if you're getting stuck, try to get some help from each other, okay? How are you doing, students? Keep putting the numbers beside your answers, okay? I'll be with you in just one more minute here. I see some correct answers, some that might need a little bit of rethinking. Okay, students, great job. Let's take a look. Okay, so here we go. The questions, this is choose no more than 2 words from the passage for each answer. Write your answers in boxes 27 to 32 on your answer sheet. A title of summary topic, capacitive touchscreens. We know that's Johnson. Johnson's touchscreens use something as an insulator and a transparent conductor coating. Let's see what you wrote. Golzota and Butterfly wrote glass. Yes, you're right. It is. It's glass. Very well done, everybody who got glass for number 27. Now, for those of you who are like, oh, I have to search, I have to find this, remember that it was the second body, like the body paragraph, the first body paragraph, the second paragraph, that was about Johnson, and then the next one was about Hearst, right? So if we go all the way back here, it said E.A. Johnson discovered this while working for the Royal Radar Establishment, okay? And here it says it usually worked by using an insulator, usually glass, that had a transparent conductor coating. So this is the sentence for that first answer, and here's the first answer. Okay, it's glass. Let me make that maybe like a blue like that, right? Okay, these 2 little dashes here tell me that there's a definition in between, and you want to pay attention to that kind of punctuation, those dash marks, okay? All right, so the something worked as the conductor, and because the dose of electricity was small, it did not affect the person's health. So number 28, who got that one? Golzota, very good. Jovo, very good. You got it. The finger. Your finger was the conductor. Very nice. Yep, the finger. Well done. Okay. Now, resistive touchscreens, we know that's the next paragraph, right? Because that was her. So this technology was developed by accident. Instead of making calculations by hand, they used a special kind of something which conducted electricity. What did they use? Nage, very good. Good job. You guys are doing awesome. Nage says it was kind of a special paper. Yeah, it was a special kind of paper that conducted electricity. Very good. Nicely done. Okay. When the researchers applied for a patent for the technology, they were denied. Patent officers did not believe the technology had any something applications outside of the laboratory. Students, what's a patent? Anybody know what that means? What is a patent? So you saw this a couple times in the text. And for some of you, this might be kind of strange or new, and you're like, what the heck is that? What's a patent? What does it mean to apply for a patent? Okay. It says patent officers, not patent. It's patent. The pronunciation, careful. Patent, not patent. Patent. Okay. All right. Anybody knows what that is? Like, what is that? What is a patent? It's 37 MTech says they should increase the reading. No, MTech, not really, because in university or at your job, if you have a professional job, you don't have more time than the IELTS to get that much information. IELTS wants to make sure you're going to succeed in university. And students, if you think you have more time in university to read passages and answer questions in exams, you're sorely mistaken. Okay, careful with that. No. 20 minutes is lots of time. Even in high school, you probably don't have as much time for a passage like this with 12 questions. Okay, so no, the IELTS they're actually quite generous in my opinion with the 1 hour. Okay, in university, you've got a lot more time pressure than in the IELTS. Or in college and at work too. Okay, so what's a patent? Yeah, so Alexander says it's registering an invention. Yeah, it's the registration, an invention for intellectual and design rights, let's call it. Yeah. When it comes to books, for example, that's called a copyright. When it comes to logos, or specific images. Does anybody know what it's called? So for inventions like touchscreen, it's called a patent. If you're talking about a book or a piece of literature, it's called a copyright. And if you're talking about a logo or a special kind of name, very good, Gurum! Gurum! You get 2 thumbs up. Gurum says, that's called a trademark, people. Exactly. So trademark is for logos. Okay, and copyright is for written content. Yeah, okay, so those are good words. So, okay, now that we know patent, can we answer this question 30? So when the researchers applied for a patent for the technology, they were denied. Patent officers did not believe the technology had any something applications. What kind of applications? Think about an adjective here. In order to get a patent, it has to have applications in everyday life. Nick Hill, it can be hard. Depends on what score you're going for, right? Mr. Romaine. Somebody's really paying attention. Mr. Romaine says, how about practical applications? Yeah, so a patent, you need to have practical applications. So if you invent a doodad that can, I don't know, spin and flip, but can't really do anything else, then not practice, it's practical. Practical. Now this is one where I might need to check my answer. I think it is practical applications, but I can check this. And I remember it was kind of in the middle of this second paragraph. Okay. And it's right here. Read it with me again, students. The University of Kentucky applied for a patent but was rejected. The discovery did not seem to the patent officers to have any relevant applications beyond the laboratory. So here it says relevant and not practical. But those two words are kind of the same, especially in this context. Will IELTS take the word practical? Maybe. Okay. So if you're in the IELTS, be very careful, because you might think, hey, I have the right answer. Practical should be correct. And if you're running out of time, go with it. Don't search. Okay. Just go with it. Try to finish all the questions. But if you have a little bit of time for this kind of question, it might be worth looking at it again and go, is that the exact word that they used? And then you can use the word relevant, right? So you can replace it. Will they take practical? I have a feeling they would. They do accept a perfect synonym in these cases, okay? And in this case, it works. So I do think they would. But if you have the time, check it and use the correct word, okay? You don't have to check all your answers, but check ones where you're kind of like, was that it? Okay. All right. Hearst was no longer bothered by worries about something, so he toiled in his off hours with friends to refine his invention. Now, this is a tricky one. Let's read and see if you can figure out what the answer is. So, let's go back to this. The University of Kentucky applied for a patent but was rejected. The discovery did not seem to the patent officers to have any relevant applications beyond the laboratory. Freed from intellectual property concerns, Hearst later worked during his off hours with a team of inventors, scientists, and engineers who also happened to be friends on refining his chance invention. So the answer's in here. Can anybody get it? So Hearst was no longer bothered by worries about something, so he toiled in his off hours with friends to refine his invention. Okay. All right. Freed from intellectual property concerns, Hearst later worked during his off hours with a team of inventors, scientists, and engineers. So what is it? What's the... Oh, very good. Somebody got it. Does everybody see the chat? Ariadna. Nicely done. It's intellectual property, right? That's what we talked about. Now, notice, students, how IELTS uses paraphrasing. So they say freed from intellectual property concerns. In the paragraph, it says Hearst was no longer bothered by worries. All of this no longer bothered by worries is just one word. It's freed. Hearst was freed from intellectual property concerns. Okay. So Hearst was no longer bothered by worries about intellectual property. So he toiled in his off hours. Okay, that was a more challenging one. That one's kind of more for like a band 8, band 9 students. But whoever got that, good job. Okay. No hands required. Hearst developed his technology to the point that while one could still use a finger to manipulate a touchscreen, a person could also use a something, a device akin to a pen with no ink. What was that called? Later on, Apple also used this, and you can buy these now in just about any shop or airport. Stylus, very good, everybody. It's a stylus. Nice. A few of you got that. Awesome. Okay, so now we're on to these kind of frustrating true, false, not given questions. Some people really don't like these, but they're not that bad as long as you know what you're doing, okay? Do the following statements agree with the information given in reading passage 3 in boxes 33 to 34 on your answer sheet? Right. True. If the statement agrees with the information, false. If the statement contradicts the information, not given. If there is no information on this. Okay. 33. Personal digital assistants were developed to facilitate business communication. Now, students, when you read a question, the first thing you have to figure out is it given, is it not? Given or not? How do you know that? Well, is it important? Did I see it? Is it maybe too much detail? Or off topic? First of all, what's the topic? What are we talking about here? In this passage, students, what's the topic? It's touchscreens, right? We're talking about touchscreens. Okay. In question 33, what's the topic? In question 33 here, personal digital assistants were developed to facilitate business communication. What's the topic? It's personal digital assistants. So the topic isn't even touchscreens here, right? It's not even touchscreens. It's personal digital. Were developed to facilitate business communication. So we're not even on the topic, and we're now talking about why these personal digital assistants were developed. It's too much detail. It's off topic. Immediately a red light should go off in my head and be like, I didn't see anything like that. I didn't see any business community. This is a not given. And a lot of you got that. A lot of you like, Adrian, stop explaining. We got it. It's not important. It's off topic. It's not given. Yeah, you know. You should be here teaching this class. Come on. No, but seriously, if you got that, if you're like, oh, okay, yeah, well, this is way too much detail. I didn't see any businessmen touching their phones or anything like that. Then you're on the right track, okay? 34. Multi-touch gestures facilitate the magnifications of web pages and photos. Is that important? I mean, we're talking about multi-touch gesture, so we're kind of on topic here, right? Touchscreens. Important? Yes. So it's given. True or false? Multi-touch gestures facilitate the magnification of web pages and photos. True or false? That's true, right? So the answer is true. Okay? You see how it works? It's a two-tier. So these questions are actually two tiers. First, you figure out if it's given, not given. Then you figure out if it's true or false. Students, don't try to just search or scan or skim for these answers. That could take way too much time. So some of you, I saw a couple people complain that, 1 hour is not enough. Probably because you're not using the right strategy. If you're using a good strategy and you have some okay reading, 20 minutes should be enough, okay? All right, 35. Not only is the capacitive aspect of touchscreens more complex, it represents a fundamental transformation from iterations 50 years before. Okay, not only is the capacitive aspect of touchscreens more complex, it represents a fundamental transformation from iterations 50 years before. Is it important to know if they're more or less complex? Is it important to know if they're very different today than yesterday? Important? Yes. Is it true? Are they very different? Okay. True or false? What do you think, students? Touchscreens, the capacitive touchscreens. Ariana says it's false. Why? Jovo says it's false. Javo here says it's true. It's a bit of disagreement here. Well, let me ask the people who said it's false. Why did you say it's false? Why? Okay, students, if you know the answer, you should be able to answer the why question. Why? Ariana says they are different, but not fundamentally. Okay. Yeah. Students, this is where visualization is very powerful. So this is where I can tell if a student was really actively reading the passage or not so actively reading the passage. I remember clearly kind of even being surprised by this, that the technology didn't really change. I don't remember where exactly, but I do remember visualizing and being surprised by this, that the passage said the technology has kind of stayed the same after it got invented for like 50 years. Let me find it for you, just so you know I'm not out to lunch here. But this kind of information should kind of catch you, and you should be like, huh, that's interesting. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so this is about E.A. Johnson. He says, it was like a light switch that registered on or off. Touchscreens that could handle variations. Though Johnson's touchscreens were lacking certain aspects of modern touchscreens, they still found important uses. His touchscreen technology was implemented by air traffic. Okay, though Johnson's touchscreens were used in the latter, it was quickly overshadowed in popularity, resistive. Okay, see, this is the issue with skimming and scanning, is it's sometimes hard to find it even if you remember where that you read it, right? Okay, let's keep going. I'm not going to spend too much time here because I know this is mostly about Hearst. Okay. With two fingers, multiple. Okay, so here we get back to it. This functionality is fundamental to the operation of smartphones. Interestingly, this technology was built upon the foundation laid by E.A. Johnson. The capacitive aspect, while certainly more complex, is fundamentally the same as that. Here it is. Woo! Finally. We found it. Okay, there you go. See, it took me a lot of skimming and scanning. That's why it's just better if I understand it to begin with, right? Because otherwise, that question took me like 3 minutes. I'm taking 3 minutes a question. I'm going to run out of time for sure, right? But I already knew the answer. I just had to prove to you that it was in here, right? The capacitive aspects. Why? Because this kind of surprised me. I was like, oh, okay, it's basically the same technology as 50 years ago. Okay, so we're sure now that this one is false. Okay, got it. All right, Apple was the first company to unveil a highly responsive stylus able to detect force and position. What's the topic? Apple. What's the topic of our passage? Touchscreens. What are we talking about? About Apple being the first company to unveil a highly responsive stylus able to detect force and position. Were they the first? Did I visualize this? Did I see Steve Jobs being like, "Hey, world, look at what we've created and we're like number one"? Usually these companies are not the first. They're just better at selling it to people. So we're going to go with a not given here. It's kind of the same as that first question, right? It's off topic and it's detailed. Be really careful with that, right? When you see something that's off topic and the true false not given and it's asking you for a lot of detail, you should kind of go, did I see that? Did I see that in the passage? Okay. We've got a couple more questions here. Which two of the following statements are made in the text about GH or GSH, GS Hearst? A, employed a binary on-off touchscreen. Okay, that kind of seems okay. Carried out research at a post-secondary institution. Okay, this is Hearst. I'm going to be clear in my head here. That first one's actually Johnson, right? It's not Hearst. But he did work at a university, which is a post-secondary institution. Voltage was allowed to pass between the X and Y wires? What? He made touchscreens a huge part of our lives. I don't know. I haven't heard about him until I just read this passage. Desired a quicker method of carrying out calculations. Yeah, he was working on a science project for a particle accelerators, right? Okay. Tech, yeah, you're right. I need 90 minutes when I'm teaching you how to do it in 20 minutes. Okay. So this is B and E. Okay. By the way, if you're like, how long does it take, somebody like Adrian to do one of these passages? I can comfortably get all the questions correct in about 10 to 12 minutes per passage. Okay. So if you're wondering, like, how fast can somebody do it who teaches English or who has done university, I can comfortably read and answer all of the questions with 90 to 100% accuracy within 10 to 12 minutes at most. Probably even faster sometimes. So that kind of gives you an idea, 37M Tech, of like, how much extra time you have. Okay. All right. The last one here, but of course I teach this and I really like reading. So I'm a very visual reader. When I read this passage, for me, it comes to life. Like I literally see Johnson in the UK. I see the airport. I see the air traffic control. I see him kind of developing the touchscreen for people working on those radar stations. I see the university with Hearst in Kentucky. I even see the Kentucky Derby, like the horse races around the university. You get very visual, right? You can create an incredible world in your head. Okay. So which two of the following statements are made in the text about E.A. Johnson? A, he developed the first touchscreen technology. That was Hearst. That wasn't Johnson. B, his technology was used to help land airplanes. Did I see airplanes landing and people touching them? No, I didn't see that, right? Maybe it's true, but who knows? His technology used resistive technology. No. He created the first touchscreen. Yeah, he did. He worked in his off hours to develop his technology. That was Hearst, so I didn't see that one. So you know what? The closest one is going to be B. I'm going to go with B and D. I didn't see the airplanes, but I know it was something at the air traffic, so I'm going to go B, D, and I'm going to stick with it. And there you go. That's the passage. So students, quite a few important points to this reading, and yes, you can do it in 20 minutes or less with high degree of accuracy. Next week, we'll focus on maybe a little bit more reading. I want to just kind of really get you reading because we've got a special new tool that we're going to be releasing for you. This will be an interactive reading app that you'll be able to use with these reading classes. So we're going to get into some more reading. We're going to be bringing you all kinds of neat, cool tools over the next bit. New applications that you can try. These are going to be free. We're just testing them out. New applications, new AI-powered course content and software as well. So really exciting stuff. So next week for the YouTube class, it's going to be reading again. And for premium users, it's going to be speaking tomorrow. If you want to join the speaking classes with the premium users, become a premium user by going to our website, click the big red button, fill this out, pay the, I don't know, 30, 40, 50 bucks US, depends on your country. It doesn't cost a ton. And you get lots more help. GIELTShelp.com for general IELTS, the green background. Join us. I'll drop these links again. They are pinned at the top here in the chat. Okay, students, loved you in the class here, having you with me. MTech being a little bit smug with me, but that's okay. I like a challenge, and I like people having fun. Practice makes perfect. Okay, enjoy the rest of your day, and premium users, I'll see you tomorrow. Everybody else, I will see you here on YouTube at this time next week. I'm Adrian. I'm signing out from beautiful Victoria here in Western Canada. Much love to all of you wherever you are in the world today. Bye for now.